All right, hello everybody. Welcome to the first IFE webinar of 2021. Thank you for joining us. It looks like the virus is going to hang around for a while. So IFE wants to share brand new information with you throughout the year. They had a really good response from the webinars from this last IFE that was done virtually. And so we're going to continue that. And today we invited, of course, an expert panel to talk about this topic. But the information we bring you through the year is going to be things that maybe are new to you or new for 2021. And in this case, we brought design experts that are going to talk about new color palettes for 2021. And we want to bring that to you because many of you have seen what Pantone's come out with and Bare Colors. But the question is, how do we convert that to a business? How do we grow sales with it? How do we use it in displays and attract customers? How do we translate sleeves, hard goods, displays using the colors that we know are going to be popular for 2021? And so that's what's on the agenda for today. And we're going to talk about color for 2021. As you're viewing this, you're probably just getting out of Valentine's, so out with the red, the pink, and the white. Now what do? We introduce spring to the customer. So with that, we're going to introduce 3 experts. And I would guess you probably already know them, but I'm going to introduce them to you anyway. And by the way, these slides that we're going to show you, you'll receive a copy of these slides also with the webinar, so you can keep them and look at them later. First person we have is Martina van Velden, Dutch-born designer. Hi, Martina. Grew up in a flower farm in Holland. She studied design during her crazy years. I'm curious what she means by crazy years. We'll find that out. She decided to take her talents to flower shops in London and Tel Aviv, learning tricks from some of the best florists out there. And after a few years, she landed a job in the United States and became a trainer and designer in a flower shop in Dallas. Didn't know that, and brought her European knowledge here to America. And for the past 20 years, she's been working in mass markets, travels to South America to train, and actually all over the world to teach innovative design techniques to future designers, mass markets, and specific suppliers that supply us in our field. Mark Frank is joining us. If you've attended IFE, you've seen him running around like a chicken with his head cut off, working on his displays, which are magnificent. He's a floral designer from Holland, but travels all over the world, and he creates presentations for exhibitions, designs for suppliers, webinars for Flower Circus. If you haven't seen Flower Circus, by the way, that is awesome and great fun, and you'll see Mark on there quite frequently. And he also develops decor for TV commercials and events, including the World Cup horse dressage in Sweden. So horse jumping and dressage in Sweden. So that's awesome. I mean, it's not just the mass market events at IFE, it's all global events throughout the world. And that's really Mark's forte, even though we know him from IFE and many trade shows. Peter Landman lives, many of you know Peter Landman already. He currently works primarily with Sandy Flowers in Ecuador and is their CCO, the creative brains of the company. He's collaborated, in addition, over 15 years, as you probably already know, with Ball Horticultural. He's a trend watcher. He gives advice to many different industries, not just floral, fashion, interior design, and one of the topics you're going to hear about later, fragrance, in one of our webinars. So in the mass market world, he consults with companies in the US, Europe, Asia, and when he's not living in planes, trains, and automobiles, he lives in the middle of a tulip field in Breezen. I think that's Northern Holland, isn't it, Peter?
Yes.
If I'm right, okay. And so we're real happy to have these three. If there is an epitome of design and teaching design in the mass markets, these are the three that you want to talk about. These are the three you want to talk to and get their feedback. And so you see they're tenured, they've been all over. And I really thank you guys for being here and sharing this kind of knowledge with the audience, because I get the fun part. I get to ask a bunch of questions. So the part of this webinar is, the first part is talking about, as I mentioned at the beginning, at the intro, Pantone at the end of the year comes out with colors, and they say this is the color of the year for 2021 for the following year. Behr Paints comes out with a really, really good advice to home decorators that are out decorating homes. And these are two companies that are very sought after. But when you look at those, as I did at the end of 2020, you think, gosh, yellow and gray, how do we translate that in the floral world, in the design world? And you look at the Behr colors and you say, gosh, I don't think I hardly know any flowers that are these colors. How do I translate that to my customers to grow revenue, to attract them to displays? If you're in a supermarket, how do I look more modern than my competitor? How do I look like I'm on the cutting edge with color? So as we go into spring, now that we put Valentine away, how do we take these colors and translate them into something compelling? Additionally, I'd like to talk about St. Patrick's Day, Easter, Professional Admin Day. Those are the three precursors of spring before Mother's Day. What do we do with these colors, and how do we look at the flowers that are available? You can't change the flowers that are available, and morph them into something really compelling and differentiated for the customer. Because one of the areas that we really want to grow in our business is self-consumption. And to do that, customers are buying flowers and decor, plants, don't want to leave out plants, sleeves, pots, fabrics for their homes. So we have to use these colors that the trend makers, if you will, are saying are going to be in consumers' homes in 2021. How do we do that? So hopefully we'll get a really good dialogue here. I'll try to control this group, because if you know them, you know these are the craziest of the bunch. But we'll try to stay on topic, but we also want to have a lot of fun in this. And my first question is, which is interesting, on the right side of the Behr color panel, you still see a lot of shades of greens. Now, if you remember last year, greens were big. You would see wedding bouquets that had all green, all greenery. So it seems to me, and am I correct, that the greenery trend is going to continue? What do you think? Peter?
So we all
Martina, yes.
don't say anything? Yes, no, yes, it will continue.
Somebody to talk.
Well, it will continue.
I see the green.
Yeah, you remember that one, that presentation years ago?
I know.
It's green. It's green. No, but
Yes.
it will continue for sure. It's like people cannot go on vacation, first of all. So they would like to go to the beach or the jungle or the park or the mountains or the forest. They cannot travel. So they want to bring, first of all, the nature back in the house. So you will see an immense trend still continuing about greens and plants and just also like green branches in a bouquet, or what you mentioned, the wedding bouquet. But also as a background.
I thought it was very interesting, because on the left-hand side, you see, butterscotches and taupes and those colors, and you think, boy, how do you execute on that color, on that color batch over on the left-hand side of the Behr? And even the Pantone, the grays. And Peter, you mentioned something very interesting: sticks, twigs, naturals. So do you see naturals also with the greens being big and bigger in 2021?
I do. What do you think, Mark?
I can see by working in daily in flower stores that it's still going on and continuing. You know, it started a couple of years ago that plants were really going to be more interesting greeneries indoors, but now you can see that, you know, it will also translate in floral. I mean, using greens in bouquets and, you know, flowers in green color palettes. It's going to be huge as well.
And you even have green orchids behind you.
That's what I mean. I mean, you know, and I picked that color because I think it's really an amazing color. I worked today in a flower store and they had these green, amazing greenish roses. I mean, and everybody loved them. I made bouquets with them and, you know, just with some greens and some other color flowers. But I mean, it's still, it's hitting the market really hard and, you know, the people will love it. So that will, you know, keep continuing for this season.
And isn't it funny on in the rose colors, you know, people, you used to have to give away terracotta roses for most of the year, you know, except for fall. And I'm wondering if, as the growers look at this and they say, boy, I've got, like you mentioned, Mark, the green roses, the terracotta, some of the ones that weren't as popular as in years past, I'm wondering if we're going to see those come up to the forefront with a whole plethora of greens, with a whole plethora of naturals, with that in a way we've never seen before. Because now if we go into a supermarket, you know, you see the majority of red roses, not on here, pink roses, white, lavender. And you really look at these color palettes and it makes you kind of rethink what we show the customer and how they're going to perceive what's in demand in 2021, so to speak.
The colors you were talking about, Cindy, you know, they are not in trend. I mean, you will see that in a couple of years, maybe, but it's an ongoing color scheme, like the red, the pinks, and the whites that will always sell. I mean, what they have done with the bear color scheme or color palette, I mean, if you would give that to me and I would have to make a bouquet out of it, I mean, I can work with these colors because that's one of the things that I see, you know, pick and choose any kind of color and match the flowers with it and make a bouquet out of it. I think it's stunning, and that's what's happening here in Holland on a regular basis.
And Martina, how is because you, I know that you work a lot with colors.
And what I see here, and what you also notice, the trend in the market is with, especially with the younger generation coming in, they're very aware. They're all about awareness and bringing nature into their house. And if you look at these colors, they're very natural colors. And that's what they really, really are looking into now. And like Mark is saying, isn't that fun? What Mark is saying, if you give these colors to me with beautiful packaging and the flowers that we're growing in Colombia right now, you can make the most amazing bouquets with it. And with a good punch of marketing, this is something that is really nice to bring to the stores. You will always sell red, white, and pink. It's not that complicated to sell those colors, but working with these is very exciting. And when I go to the breeders, for example, the pom-pom breeders, and you visit them, you see a lot of these new pom-pom varieties that are coming in these shades. So, I mean, it looks weird, but I'm very happy with these color combinations. And the same thing with the Pantone color, the gray and yellow. In the first time when I saw that color coming in, I was like, what are we going to do with this color combination? But then you start translating the gray to flowers, and I'm thinking about the grayish eucalyptus, and I think about yellow flowers. And I think what Pantone is trying to do is we're going through, we all know it, we're going through Corona times and people need to stay optimistic and calm. Yellow is a very powerful, optimistic color, and gray brings calmness. So I do understand the color combination, and I think when we put some thinking in it, that we can make some really good marketing and bouquets with this.
But you know, I also think, oh, sorry.
And of course, these colors, you have to adapt them to whatever you think is the best for working with. I mean, gray, you know, you can have a yellow bouquet in a gray sleeve.
Exactly.
I mean, that really matches well, or like a gray print. I mean, so you can use these Pantone colors anyway, you know, or as what Martina was saying, use some gray leaf material with some yellow flowers. I mean, make a big display out of it and stand out, because that's what you do with these colors. If you present them in the right way, definitely you will stand out.
Yeah, but I also think that it's not just about flowers in these colors. We have the vessels, we have ribbon, but also for merchandise purposes at store level. You know, these colors like beer, that's like also for your wall paint or your wall paper, let's say. I see like the background of Cindy, where she's having a color which blends in perfectly to that scheme of beer. But then in front of that, you can have any color of flower. So then it also combines again. Because we have to realize, Mark, you were saying already, like we have like the reds and the purples and the pinks and the hot pinks and that, because that's a very basic color palette, and but we also have to work with. But then with the nice vessels, or even I can imagine like at floral departments to have like behind the presentation a wall with a certain color of these colors from beer or even the Pantone, and which they can change in and out. So by season, because I can figure that that when it's fall, that you go more for the darker colors from this beer collection, and then when it's spring, you go for the pinky and the peachy kind of color. And flowers, we cannot change that fast, because breeders, they need like sometimes 20 years to get a new flower. So we really have to work with what we have, of course, and which is available. But I do see tons of possibilities.
Yes.
Yellow, for me, personally, it's not my favorite color. I don't go very well with yellow. I'm the blue guy, but you know, but it's like, yeah, you know, for sure it will sell more this year when it's like all over the place, and it's in the windows from the stores, and it's like in the magazines. People get like influenced by that, but also automatically they're looking for, like you were saying, Martina, I think they're looking for those bright colors. My goodness, you know what? Being locked up for more than a year, my goodness.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I need happiness.
Happiness indoors. I mean, you know, get different types of flowers and different types of colors.
Yeah.
Make a mix up with them. Oh my God, it does it so well. I mean, that brightens up your day. If you see that flowers on your table, I mean, it's amazing.
I know.
It's
And it's
almost,
color.
it's almost after so many years in retail, there's really two lanes of consumer. There's a consumer that comes in and they're looking at the displays and they're saying, what's her favorite color? What's his favorite? And then you can sell the pinks, the blues, the reds, etc. But there's another customer segment that I think everybody's trying to get. It's that brass ring, and that is home decor, self-consumption. And this is when you go into a furniture store, and if all they had were red couches, blue, and hot pink, you would be turned off, because that's not the home decor. And I think for self-consumption, we really need to pay attention to these and see it from through our marketing, and through whether it's our hard goods, our sleeves, our floral, our design, the natural products. we can appeal to that customer. Because the self-consumption isn't saying, what's my favorite color? They're saying, what's going to look good in my living room? I'm having a party. What looks good with my china? What looks good in my family room, my kitchen? And I think, and I haven't really out there seen a whole lot of advertising that promotes self-consumption in that way. But that's what the customers are saying. I'm buying for my dining room table. And if they only see red, hot pink, yellow, and blue, that may not attract them. But if they see colors like this, which you guys know, you've seen many homes, these are the homes that people are painting their walls with and their decor, maybe we could really tap that market easier and better.
Yeah, but I think another thing to this, what I have to add is it's not that only what looks good in my room or on my dining table, but what I encounter more and more, especially when people buy flowers on a regular base, weekly or 2 weekly. Sometimes I see them think like, what do I feel like having? Which color do I feel like having? I mean, don't underestimate that part of the decision making of the customer. I mean, that's also a thing to really consider, you know, putting your store together with all the different segments of color, of this color scheme.
The emotion.
Emotion buyers.
Yeah.
Emotion buyers.
Yeah.
What do I feel like having? Do I want to have spring, colorful spring, all colored tulips together, one big bundle on my dining room table? Or do I feel more like it has to be serene, like white colors? I mean,
I think that's also what Pantone did very well, because they balanced it out, right? So it's like, if you're happy, okay, then you go for white flower, or you go for something which is more neutral to balance yourself out. Because if you're hyper yourself, you don't want also hyper colors around you, because you go explode, right? But if you are like sad and down, then you want to see something bright. And I think that's exactly what Pantone did. They really balanced it out so well. Love it.
I also feel that there's a trend coming more and more in the US where we're used to see that in Europe already. And that's why you, Mark, are saying like the consumer comes in and buys what they feel like today. We're also getting into the trend here that consumers are starting to buy more for themselves and not only for a visit where they're going to. So they finally you finally get that, like, what do I feel for today? I want tulips, I want calla lilies, or I want a bright colorful bouquet from Colombia. They're not just shopping for somebody else. And that is a different type of shopping.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it's also
Yes.
entertaining,
Yeah.
right? It's like making cookies together with the family. What I saw on a post from you, super nice, by the way, where you were, you know, making your cookies and showing like how beautiful they were. But it's also the fun with the family together. And I think that's also with Floral now.
Yeah.
You know, people are at home, so you want to do something else than just watching Netflix. So it's like, and then when you have flowers and you do this together with your family, and it doesn't need to be like the perfect shaped bouquet. It doesn't matter, you know, when it's hitting the water, it's cut, it will survive. And so like what I did here also, this is like not so very well arranged, let's say. It's just like you buy a bunch and you just put it by bunches in the vase. And that's, everyone can do this, but how cool is it to do this with your whole family? Or when you visit your grandparents, to sit on the table, buy flowers, and together you put it in the vase. One is putting this flower, the other is that flower, the other that flower. And then together with a cup of coffee, cup of tea, or a glass of water, and cookies, of course cookies.
And
yeah. No, but you know what, then it's fun.
Yes.
so the next time, Martina, when we meet up, I need to have a couple of those cookies because they looked really delicious.
They were good.
Yeah, you know what? And I will bring the flowers, Mark, and you have the bases already. I see that.
Oh, yeah. Dinosaur. Please bring the dinosaur.
Okay, and Cindy's making the cocktails.
So
I'm gonna ask.
you
who
got
has
it.
alcohol.
But I don't know what goes with cookies, but I'll figure it out.
Anything.
That doesn't
Beer.
matter.
Who will care after a few?
Yeah.
You won't care. Okay, so this next part is I wanted to include this because I really learn a lot from the color wheels. I'm sure you guys work with these all the time. And this is from Canva. And I just wanted to share with the viewers, if you haven't worked with Canva, canva.com, go there, play around, it's free. They do a great job talking about colors, color combinations, how to mix colors. Amazing. If you love making PowerPoints, if you love making marketing materials, even for home invitations or whatever. So I want to give a shout out. What I'm showing you is from Canva, but it's the color wheel and the different rules of color. And I want to cover that. And then I'm going to ask Martina. Martina actually sent photographs of some brand new designs that she created that really talk about these new color trends for 2021. So the first I want to show you is the color wheel, just so we all know how to read a color wheel. And there are a couple here I've never heard of. But the first one's complementary. You guys have probably heard of that one. That's where you combine two colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. Most of us know that. Monochromatic, most of us know that. 3 shades, tints, or tones of one basic color. So that's interesting. So Canva has all of this written out, and they also will put together, if you start making a marketing piece or even a letter or a header or anything, they'll suggest the right color combinations. So I thought this was really cool to share on this webinar. Analogous, that is when 3 colors that are side by side on the color wheel. So it's not like 3 different shades, but they're 1, 2, 3, they're side by side. Could be the blues, if you go around to the left, the pinks and purples, the reds and yellows, and then the greens. Now this one I've never heard of, triadic, and that is 3 colors that are evenly spaced, like in a triangle on the color wheel. I've never seen this before or heard this before, so I wanted to share it with everybody because it looks like you could come up with some pretty cool color combinations from this group. And then the other one that I've never heard of as well, tetradic, and that's 4 colors that are evenly spaced on the color wheel. So it's really interesting. I'd love to have a whole bunch of flowers and play with this, maybe use it, as Peter said, as a family project. But these are really interesting color combinations. And if you're designing bouquets or making arrangements, I think a couple of these would be pretty interesting, putting things together this way, or combining hard good with flowers, bouquet sleeve with flowers, etc. And then on the right, of course, we all know this, cool side, hot side, or warm side, if you will, spring on the left, fall, Thanksgiving, Christmas on the right. So this will be in with the webinar for everybody that's viewing this webinar, but I wanted to include this. First of all, look at canva.com. You'll love to play with it. It's free, and then there's a paid subscription if you want to go to the nth level. And look at these color wheels and the different types of colors you can put together. I don't know if you guys use color wheels, you probably have them memorized, but I thought all these were very interesting and a really good tool as you're creating. And even booths, trade show booths, or displays in a flower shop or in a supermarket, you know, trying to put these colors together to really appeal to the consumer. I've never seen at least these last 2, and I think they're interesting.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that the 3 of us, the designers in Martina, Mark, and myself, I think we are brainwashed with this thing. So we, when we had to study, remember, it's like 5-6 years, but when we study in Europe for floral designer, it's like you had to learn all this by heart, like all these colors and combinations. Oh my goodness.
help.
Yeah, I sometimes have nightmares about it, but it helps a lot. You're right.
It helps, but when you come fresh out of school, you want to be the rebel, and you're like, whatever.
You're right.
I've never
Rules are
used
made to
so
be
many
broken.
color pens. I've never used so many color pencils during that time. I mean, you know, drawing over and over again. I mean, you know,
Yes.
and it's the basics of the floral industry, like the color palette usage. But nowadays, you know, it just comes naturally. I don't have to think about it. Okay, what color is the opposite of the color wheel? You know.
That's why you are who you are, you guys.
We
True.
think colors.
True.
I think we basically we think in colors. It's like everything.
Color, shapes, textures.
Yes.
Well,
There
at
you
least
go.
I do. I do.
That's why you're on this webinar. That's why you're answering and I'm asking. Okay, so this next part, Martina sent this in and she could talk a little about it, but when I looked at the color combinations, I was really shocked at how they coordinate with Pantone and how they coordinate with even Behr.
I know.
And so that's one of the things Martina does is put together designs, and the same with Mark and the same with Peter. This one she put together for a client that she works for, and she could share that as well. But I also added, Martina, underneath here, the Pantone and the Behr colors, because I think the people looking at this webinar will really see, oh my gosh, look, this is exactly what we were talking about. Because when Martina and I talked on the phone about this webinar, she said, yeah, I got it. We're already doing that. And you will see here, she sent this right away. This is the work that she had already done toward this topic. So one of the things that whether it's Mark or Peter or Martina, these are the wind behind the sails of all of our suppliers that we're buying products, we're buying bouquets, we're buying arrangements from. These are the guys that lead the way and really hand to the sales folks what we see on the retail side. So there's so much design work, so much thought that goes into that. And Martina, I'll give it to you, and then I'll change the slides when you're ready. So I'll let you, this is your content, I'll let you talk about this.
Well, it's really funny that you brought up this whole color presentation, because this program was finished last week and is about to get sent out to our sales team to bring to their clients. And the funny story behind this whole collection is working from home. And one day I have a 9-year-old ginger hair freckle boy that loves color. And he comes downstairs from his room and he is so proud. He got himself dressed in his bright red pants, bright yellow shirt with a scar, a hat, the whole thing. And I'm like, dude, what's going on with you? And he's like, Mama, I'm so energized by colors.
Oh.
I'm thinking, you know what? This is so awesome. This little kid, the colors made him happy. He couldn't go to school. He had to find his energy from something else. And I love the energized by colors slipped out of his mouth. So I'm sitting there, I'm writing down his little text. I'm like, dude, we're going to make a collection out of this. And that's how this whole program started. And that's when I started to do more and more in like research into what are colors doing with our emotions.
But see, can I interrupt, Peter? This is what you were saying about, it's almost duplicitous. It's the calming and the happy.
Yeah.
This calms me. This makes me happy. And that's really where we are right now. We want to be calmed because of what's happening in the world, but then we want to be happy. We want to make kind of a new way to be happy, whether it's with family or however, something that many of us, you know, especially if we've traveled like many of us have our whole lifetime, we haven't spent a lot of family time, and now you're spending more family time together. But it's funny because Peter, you hadn't seen this yet, and you said that same thing. It's calm and happy at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So this is a very pretty example of a calming mix of flowers, the pinks, the lavenders, the soft tones. And now you go to the colors for Pantone. If you put a grayish sleeve around this bouquet, you're using their gray and it brings more calm to it.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw this. And by the way, Martina works with Bouquet Collection on their designs. Um, and so we're not here to advertise Bouquet Collection. We are going to have, as we have these webinars throughout the year, we want to have many, many suppliers on and designers to show new things, to show what they're working on, to show new trends. But we do want to thank Bouquet Collection because Martina said, Cindy, our salespeople don't even have this yet. So we're really excited that they allowed us to show this because it isn't even out yet. And so we want to thank them and of course, see your salesperson. And if you're interested in any of these, but we're going to include throughout the year many different suppliers because we want to hear from them on what they're doing that's different as well. And so Martina, you'll see I put the Pantone color at the bottom and the bear at the bottom, but you can see side by side how these reflect for 2021, including the sleeve patterns to the right. So I'll pass it on back to you.
Well, you see the energizing mix here, which energizing colors is a lot of bright colors, the neons, the yellows, the reds, the blues, and putting that in one color in these bouquets. When you go to the store, and especially under these store lights, they really jump out in your face and they will give you a lot of alertness. They keep you focused, these colors.
Now it's interesting as I'm going to go on to the next selection, but you kind of think, okay, what about the bear colors? You see the yellow in there. What about the bear colors? And then you'll see what Martina did as far as the designs that really shockingly are almost a direct match on the bear colors. Yeah. And I think this is one of the things I wanted to mention, Martina. Eucalyptus seems like it's going crazy. Yes. Because as you look at these colors, it's everywhere. That is the shades of green that are really on trend according to Bear, and of course the gray on Pantone. I'm seeing eucalyptus in almost every supermarket display.
Yes. And when I created this line, I didn't look at the Bear colors, and I saw this a while ago. I saw this coming through and I was like, this is all lining up with each other. And like Peter was saying, if you have a flower shop and you take that deep purplish color and a velvety color in the background of a wall and you present your flowers in front of it, it's a great way to bring that feeling to you while the bouquets still have different colors.
And look at sleeve number 1 on the right hand side, and number 2, it looks like stone. And one of the things that we want to mention, which we really want to have a webinar with our hard goods and our wrap folks, because if their wraps and sleeves and hard goods don't match the trends, that's half of what we sell basically. And so you see the brown craft paper, and then with a little tinge of the green. And also number 2 is really cool that to me it looks like a stone, almost a stone texture. Super cool.
It's great. It's great that our sleeve suppliers, because this is a good mix from different suppliers that we have. It's so great that they support us with a lot of their marketing and their research, and that they also are so ahead of the game with a lot of the new trends that are coming out. So when they have it, we can have it.
Yes. Talk about happy. You can't get any happier.
This is happy. We all smile.
Happy colors. Happy colors are also very strong colors, but they're they bring that uplifting happiness feeling to you. It's very bold. It's out there. And again, here we go to the yellow from Pantone. It's just, this is what we need nowadays. Like the first sleeve, when I saw that sleeve, I was like, we got to use that sleeve because that's what we need right now. People need to bring flowers home and color home, especially like, I don't know who still, well, we're not in Florida here, but most of the time when you go up north in the US, it's cold. We're dealing with snowstorms up north. We're having these dark days. The days are very short. We need color. So happiness.
Great. And then Peter, what do you have behind you? I see fabrics behind you.
No,
Is
it's
that
not
just
fabric.
decor?
Oh God, you're gonna love this. Oh, so first of all, I have here lots of yellow. Now I have some pretty dresses.
Are you going to show these?
Yes, I'm going to chase myself.
Nice.
I think it's-
I'm not gonna tell.
No, you know, it's all occasion, and that's the funny thing, because Cindy, before you just contacted us, I was doing a photo shoot for the farm, and so I was like, okay, well, I have to use something which is like trendy but also different, and we are all in a lockdown and we're all unhappy. So as you know, I live in the Netherlands. I found a brand which is called Lily. And then Mark, who lives also in the Netherlands, that day that I had to purchase, this is hilarious. So when I had to purchase all this clothing, we were sitting together behind the laptop. And so like, okay, this dress is pretty. Oh yeah, you can combine it with this. So, you know, you get like this, for example, but this is like the colors, as you can see, there are a lot of those colors which are coming from the beer or the beer colors, let's say. But we also have bright yellow. But this brand has then also scarves which are like super bright and with lots of yellow, and you see again all the combinations. Now the funny thing about this brand is that they have like the weirdest prints, let's say, going together, because you can have this, but it can be also, this is like a print which is like a kind of a paisley, kind of flowery print. This is turquoise, but this turquoise is actually a color from 2 years ago when it was fancy. And we also have to realize that people cannot change from one to the next immediately. So when you have something like this, but there is also yellow in it, then you blend it again. But then this brand does this, for example, and they get like very strange prints combinations. And talk about happiness, Martina, this makes you happy.
I need scarf.
So, and I work a lot with fabric and fabric companies, but also wallpaper companies, because they have like wonderful prints. Look at Martina there.
Dutch wallpaper.
With old-fashioned prints, and that's Mark, for example, behind him has like all those bone china ceramic vases and pots and so on, and there is also beautiful prints there. And that's a great inspiration to get, let's say, to the fashion where we are right now. And then to the flowers. Yellow flowers are, yes, important, but to me, it doesn't mean that we have to use just yellow. And I put like another flower in between, which is like the stalk. There's a little bit of yellowish orange in it and pink. And that's the trick for all of us. Not to go like, oh, Pantone is yellow, we just bring in yellow, bring it on.
Yes,
Because
yes.
can you imagine, like me, with this yellow here? It's like, it's not my favorite color. But when we do this, and we take like a Gerber daisy, like this one, which is like a kind of off yellow, and you put it together, and then you have like a ranunculus, which is more yellow. Now, all of a sudden, it's not that strong yellow anymore, but we saw from Pantone. But still, it's a color which is like fashionable, and we have to realize that the consumer will really also look for it, because they're like overwhelmed with it. In all magazines, all advertisements, they see yellow, yellow, yellow. And when you see it a lot, you want to have it. It's like if you see a lot of Rolls Royces through the street, you want to have one too.
And
right?
I think this is the first palette I've seen in a long time without true pink, without true blue. You know, it's almost lack of primary colors, which I think is interesting. Now Pantone has the yellow, but on the Bear, it's really interesting. It's one of the first times I've seen hardly any primary colors in the mix. But then you look, by the way, Martina, this is my favorite, the Calming collection is really my favorite. That is stunning, but it represents, look how well it represents the Bear and that color combination, the muted blues, muted lavenders, the grays, the muted pinks, if you will. I think it's awesome. I think it's perfect for this season.
Thank
Hey,
you.
but Mark and Martina, you know what these colors do remind me of from the Bear, from the collection of the colors of the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like go online, you all, and look at www.rijksmuseum.nl, and you will, they have like all the colors they use in the museum for the background walls.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's almost these colors. It's so
Identical.
beautiful, and you can see this also in the museum, how it blends in with modern art and with classic art. Beautiful.
I love
Great
those colors. And
inspiration.
these colors help whatever you present in front of it to jump. They don't take all the attention.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's not saturated. I mean, any kind of color, if you take one color of this Bear color palette and you put another color in front of it, I mean, it doesn't hurt each other. I think that's what's really nice about these colors.
Yeah.
And again, you have to figure out yourself by the colors you have, flower-wise, you know, what you are going to put together. But I think it's a wonderful palette.
Yep.
And exactly what you say, Peter, these are also the Rijksmuseum, you know, color palettes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So actually, it's like a returning in time, because the Rijksmuseum is built, I think, in 18 something.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's a wave, it's all coming and going. And I think, yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
So
But
tell me
also,
this,
Bessie,
I'm gonna ask each one of you this final question. If you had one piece of advice for folks who are viewing this, and they're gonna be suppliers and they're gonna be retailers or buyers, the Albertsons, the Krogers, Southeast Grocer, etc. What would your one piece of advice, as they're looking at now, they get through Valentine's Day, what's your one piece of advice you'd give them color-wise as they're selecting products to be fresh, new, and differentiated to their consumer? What would you tell them if you were standing on a stage right now?
who goes first?
You.
I will.
Yay!
I think one of my thoughts about this question you asked us is that whoever is the buyer from one of the companies, I think you have done a great job already in the past few years. Don't use all the colors, but choose the colors wisely, you know, with your heart, not only with your mind, but with your heart. You know, these are examples. It's an inspiration for you, but don't take them all, but choose a selection, choose wisely and choose with your heart. That's what my advice would be. How about you, Martina?
I like what you're saying, and I would say rotate. So if you choose for a certain period a certain color combination, then rotate that with the next color combination and the next. Do not feel limited by many things that people from the outside tell you what you should do. Follow your heart, and everybody has a little inner designer in himself, even if you think you don't, you do. So the more you're able to break rules that are always told you to do, is the more freedom you can create for yourself to do this.
I totally agree. I totally agree. Well said.
Well, then, and for me, coming to you, like there is always a little designer in yourself. To start with, don't listen to the little voices in your brain when you're making decisions, because for all the people who are buying or making decisions for a large chain or smaller chain store, you always have like the voice from your upper management, lower management, the supplier, they all come through your brain. Turn that off first, then you make your decision. Your own feeling is always the best one. And the first thing that comes in your mind is the best one. The other thing is like, never forget the season. So we are living in a society where we currently are in a pandemic. We are at home. We are not feeling very comfortable. We are not so outgoing, and we are turning back to traditions. Traditions are very important. So if we talk about, let's say, Thanksgiving, okay, don't go with Thanksgiving and say like, oh, well, you know what? Thanksgiving, we are going to make it red and yellow this year with soft pink, whatever accents or so. That's not right. So please stay in the traditional color schemes, but you can blend it off. So what you see with the beer tones, it's like washed colors. So try to do that and maybe with vessels or with your backgrounds. But please keep the tradition. People need their traditions, whatever they are, but they need their traditions. And that brings sales too. And we need dollars.
Yeah.
Because that brings
the main reason.
Yeah, well, we have, you know, I always say, it's like, I always like those meetings and I talk about margins and I talk about markups and so on. And yes, of course, super important. But you listen, I cannot buy bread with percentage. I can buy bread with dollars. I want to see dollars.
I had one of my favorite bosses always said, you can't deposit gross profit percent in the bank.
Correct.
Or after the sales dollars and the profit dollars, don't talk about percent because you can't deposit it in the bank. And I've always thought of that. It's always the cash revenue is what really drives the buzz.
Exactly. Yeah. And
well,
so
thank you guys so much.
You're more than welcome. It's a pleasure.
It was so great. We could go on for another hour, but there's a certain, I don't want to take your time. And I know, Mark, what time is it there? Probably 10 o'clock or so.
Yeah, even after 10 o'clock.
Woo! Well,
So,
thank you so much. Thank you guys. And for those who are viewing this webinar, we're going to have more. If you're a supplier, if you're a retailer, if you're in hard goods, sleeves, anything, reach out. We're going to do one on fragrances, I mentioned. So please reach out. We'd love to cover your topic. There's so many that we could cover, so many interesting things we could talk about. But I thought this one was a great one. As we get out of Valentine, we start talking about what we're going to do for spring 2021 and how the colors relate. So on behalf of IFE, my name's Cindy Hanauer, and thank you so much, Martina, Peter, and Mark, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.